G'day guys, so thanks for clicking on the video. So this one's going to be a little bit different to my usual videos. So a couple of weeks back I attended a 3-day basic course with Gordo from Bushcraft Survival Australia. So Gordo is a survival instructor with the Australian Army, and over the last 15 years or so he's just travelled the world and really honed his skills in bushcraft and survival, and he's done courses with all the big names in the business like Dave Canterbury, Ray Mears, Paul Kirtley, Bob Cooper. So yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge, and I was really excited to go attend one of his courses. So the course you're about to see is a basic course, but he's also got intermediate and advanced courses, and when they eventually pop up, I'll definitely go and attend those, because like I said, there's just so much to learn. And the basic course is a bit more gear based and survival based, whereas intermediate and advanced is more bushcraft and getting rid of the gear and just learning how to use the resources around you. So very keen to eventually attend those. But if you guys want to check out his stuff, he's got a really good YouTube channel, which is Bushcraft Survival Australia. On that there's a lot of educational sort of instructional videos to check out. And obviously, yeah, check out his website, try and book in a course and attend one of his courses, because like I said, there's a lot to learn from him. And I think yeah, we're starting to lose some of those skills, especially in Australia where we have such a big four-wheel driving culture. Some of those like really just basic fundamental skills that bushmen have had for generations, I think we're starting to lose. We get pretty complacent with just being able to chuck pretty much everything, including the fridge and the kitchen sink in the back of a four-wheel drive, and head down in the bush, and we don't really have those fundamental skills. So I think doing courses like this and just brushing up on those are really important. Yeah, so that being said, sit back, relax, and hopefully you guys enjoy this one.
Bushcraft, however, on the other hand, is that parent topic, much more in depth, much greater, and minimal reliance on equipment. It's all skill, it's the knowledge up here. And the more you know up here, the less you have to carry. Bushcraft is not an emergency. Yes, someone that has bushcraft skills will fare well in a survival situation. The difference is how you handle stress. For example, for someone that's got a few bushcraft skills, that camps regularly and knows what they're doing, that, you know, if you're shut out in your own or locked vehicle breakdown, you have to stay the night in the bush. For someone with a few skills, that might be nothing more than inconvenient camping. But for someone that doesn't know anything, that spent all their life in a city or something, and that could be a dire survival situation psychologically. So it depends on your level of skill. 3 hours without shelter. Now you're in a shelter now or under one. Shelter begins with the clothing on your back. Generally speaking, wools and synthetics for cold environments, loose fitting cottons for hot environments. 3 days without water. People have gone longer, but generally speaking, we use minimum of say 2 litres of water a day in normal bodily function. That's sitting down doing nothing. To be honest, in Australia, water in Northern Australia would come above shelter sometimes. Water is more important. If you take nothing else from this course but this, will save more lives. The STOP acronym. Stop, think, orientate or organise and plan. The S, stop what you're doing. If you're out, as soon as you realise you're lost, stop. Go and sit down under a tree, have a drink of water if you've got someone, and just take 15. Just to think, right, okay. Just acknowledging the loss. Then think about it. Okay, what are you going to do? I'm lost. Right. How can I get through? What do I need to do? Then it's time to either organise yourself, once you've acknowledged you're lost, or once you're in an accident or something, orientate yourself. Now, if you're lost, that might be, right, recognising, right, this is the last known place I was lost. I've come from this way. This is now home base. Set up a marker, set up writing, so right, I am lost from this position. Because if you wander around, you're just going to get yourself further and lost. Very quickly at knives, we've already discussed the importance of a knife and a cutting tool. The most important tools. Ideally, we want something that's full tang, which means the blade or the handle comes up all the way. You can see that on that. The piece of metal, the blade comes all the way up to the through the handle, right to the end. So there are 4 main grinds. The first one is the most common, the conventional, it accounts for probably about 50 to 60% of knives, and it's your conventional knife. It's pretty much the blade profile used on most pocket knives. There's two things here. We have the grind, which is the overall shape, and we have the bevel. We have what's called a primary bevel and a secondary bevel. The primary bevel is this part here. The secondary bevel is the bit in the green. So primary bevel, secondary bevel. Can you all see that? So it's a different angle. This grind is what's a Scotty grind. That grind is pretty much just two angles. Side, primary, secondary. And that's very easy to see. And this is the design Scotty, short for obviously Scandinavian, because these are all designed with bushcraft in mind, bushcraft and survival activities. And because it has that wide secondary bevel, when it comes to sharpening, I can put it flat on that stone. And when I do that, it's very easy to hold that flat. So that's why. So in the field, this is much easier to sharpen. And that's the whole point. So it's strong, it's robust, and you've got a good one that's like this. They're generally all made with a 90-degree spine. Knife. There's many different stones as well. Ceramic, diamond. Generally use a rough diamond stone for the to get the nicks for rough sharpening. Then you turn to the shiny side or the ceramic for your fine to put a polish on it, because the finer it is, it keeps its edge longer. An axe to get the convex is sharpened in a circular fashion like that, going all the way along at an angle and then changing around so you get the curvature. And it's that circular motion, be it that way or holding the axe going this way, that gives that convex shape to it. And after you sharpen, you must take care of your equipment, you must oil it. Very important. Our main choices between knives are carbon versus stainless steel. Obviously stainless steel doesn't rust, it maintains its edge longer, but it is harder to resharpen in the field particularly. Great around saltwater environments. Carbon steel, it loses its edge faster but easier to sharpen in the field, but it's prone to rust. If you look after it by oiling it, which you should oil, you won't have a problem in moving. And it's called the chest lever grip. It gives me a lot of control and a lot of power. And the muscles I'm using the scapula and my shoulder blades. See that? That doesn't leave my chest. If that's hard, and you will feel like a bit of an unco at first, it does feel weird, you can just do that regularly, or you can use a reinforced grip. Not with the same hand. Only some carbon you use, but with generally the method is to use the thumb of the non-master hand. And we're taking off that much all the way around. You can go back again and do the same again.
Cool.
Remember, cutting.
I haven't done this before.
So, I want to set up my shelter tonight. You need to do it before it gets dark, because if you leave it too late, you're going to be setting up in the dark. You have to know when to call it quits to get up, because you're going to need time to get firewood, know how to make a fire, to make a shelter. If you don't have one, you need time to get comfortable, because there's nothing wrong worse than doing it in the dark. And in a situation where you're really lost, that's going to be scary. So you have to make sure that you leave enough time. That's really, really important. So the other thing is I'm looking down, looking across, I'm looking up, and I'm looking all around. So what am I looking up for?
Yes.
Widow makers. Does everyone know what a widow maker is? Right. Anything that's going to come crashing down. So straight away I've got 2. Now because I want a hoochie, I need 2 trees. But the other thing is, it is a bit cool. Where does cold air want to go? Down. So I don't want to be right down near the water. That's going to be probably a couple of degrees colder. So about here is going to be good. This is going to come over the top. This is called a tarp taut hitch, and I'm going to be showing you this individually. The rope comes over the top, and then I'm pulling, getting that nice and tight. Tension. I then go round the tree. Do this in reverse, and then here it comes over the top, forms a triangle. And I'm going to push a little loop through and another loop through. I'm going to show you this closely several times with paracord to be easier. And I've just created a knot which is quick release. All I need to do is pull that and it comes straight undone. I've got now a ridge line. Should always pluck like a base. Then I've got that's my ridge line up. Now these are all nicely hanked, and I'm looking for 4 tie-off points. Over the top, hand through the middle once, hand through the middle twice, hand under, forming a little mini loop, coming through to here. I pull one end and I slide the knot. Now you find if you pull an end and slide, nothing happens, you're pulling the wrong one. It only works one way. Then I pull that, not too tight, it'll pull it over. I've set that up so I can sit comfortably underneath it. So if you all look under here, there's nothing worse. You want to be able to sit up comfortably. Like a nice bit of flat ground, it's a body thing, and it's quite comfortable. And in heavy driving rain, I'm going to set this up much lower to the ground so it's down here, and that's going to take the water off. But this is quite nice and flat and nice and comfortable. I'm going to enjoy sleeping here tonight on my mat. Right, for you guys.
From my left, I can't do it.
Don't worry.
How about now? I got it. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
So what I do, I take a loop, an eye. That's our hole. I'm using a different colour so you can see it. Rabbit comes up through the hole, round the tree, on the inside of the body, not this side. So it's always on the inside of the hole, not the outside. Up through the bottom, round the tree, and all we do is just go back under itself again. But not back through the hole. And we pull that like that. And that's called a sheet bend. Joining 2 sheets. I'll do that again for you.
But like, just not in too much detail. Sure. I think probably did like once a year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just not. You know, we were just so tied up doing it. Yeah.
Everyone's hungry, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Or you can take flour, and this is one of those staples you would take with you. Now we've got a bit of leftover flour, so I'm going to use this whole thing. You always got to leave a bit in reserve in case you mess it up. So I'm going to aerate that. That's flour. To that, I'm going to get this to rise a bit. I'm just going to add a little bit of yeast and sort of like a whisker of salt. And all I'm going to do is mix that in. So if I can get someone down on this one who wants to make the fruit loaf. Right, so once we get it to the right consistency, I'm then going to rotate it around my hand. And I'm putting a divot in the bottom, like that. And it's like almost like a French loaf. And then that's going to sit in our camp oven like that, and that's going to get it rise. Now one kit, you can see we're using quite a lot of the coals. They don't go as far as you think. I'm not putting it directly on the coals because they'll be too hot. And away you go. Try to get them in the middle, so another one there, you've got to get 4, try to, yep. We are, but you guys are managing. I'm going to make it. We're going to do a fire lesson, obviously. It's not my aim to turn everyone into a bunch of pyromaniacs. So with what I'm about to show you comes a lot of responsibility, and it's practiced. Very important skill, and fire is a tool. Just like a knife is a tool. So even though it's one thing, out of all the skills in bushcraft survival, this is the most important skill because you can manage everything else from this. And the greater the need for fire, the harder it is. What were some of the things we talked about with fire? What's the importance? What does it give us? Heat, protection, morale, cooking. So fire is all those things. So your ability to make it is going to look after most of your priorities of survival. Our Aboriginal people will light a fire just to give them a sense of place, even if they're there for an hour. So it is everything. So your ability to make it is important. Okay, first of all, percussion, spark, something, I'm going to show you all of these. Friction, rubbing 2 sticks together. Electrical, electricity, natural electricity, lightning, things like that. Solar, from the sun, we can magnify the sun's rays. Cigarette lighters fail when they get wet, and when it's really windy they don't work. Matches are great, but they don't work when they get wet. But they give you guaranteed flame, but you don't want to blow on it because it goes out. Having a ferro rod gives you the ability to produce sparks. To give us fire. Burns at about 800 degrees to 1,000 degrees because it's got magnesium in it. But it's not guaranteed flame at all. It only gives a spark. And tinder is the thing that's going to capture that spark. The best example of that is cotton wool, man-made. It's light and fluffy and has lots and lots of surface area. That's 100% cotton. I've got some Vaseline here, and I'm going to put some Vaseline in that. Now this is acting as what we call a coal extender. This is going to help this stay alight for longer. So in a wet environment, when it's really wet, this is going to light for a long period of time, giving us a greater length of time to produce a small fire from it. So one of these to use. There's a few ways. The main thing is the hand that doesn't move is which hand? The knife hand. That can be on my leg. So for example, when you've got a fire lay, you want to get close. It can be my boot. Where I point the rod is where the sparks go. Remember, keeping that corner. So that's the golden rule. Anchor, this hand moves, because if you use this one, you're going to knock your tinder for a 6 every single time. Tinder's around here. Last night, not all the trees, you have to have a look. Anything that strips off in sheets like that, and it's now cordage making, it's those inner fibres. Generally speaking, I can break that. See those fibres? Crush, fold, break, roll. So what I'm now doing is turning this into cotton wool. Now you need to check, not all bark from that, gophers won't work. This is where you have to experiment. So ask yourself the question, does it look and feel like cotton wool? And the answer is no, then it's probably not going to work. But the other one, which is really common around here, and it's common everywhere, all around the East Coast, and this is the one you're going to be using a lot up the coast. This is one of the only ones we could have. This is everywhere. This is the leaves of dead mat rush, spiny-headed mat rush, Lomandra longifolia, food source, edible leaf bases. Grind the seeds into flour. This is one of the plants we're going to. So we haven't done our plant, but only because that's the last in the priorities of food. But it's a resource. So we're after the dead leaves of that. And as you know, that's not going to take a spark. So you're going to have to prepare it. Rightio. Now I've turned that into that. Let's put a spark into that using correct technique. Now, because I've actually also made a little pocket. See, like my little damper last night? Made a little pocket because I want the flames to go up. If you do it on the top, flames go up and it misses it. So you need to have something slightly above it. So that's why I create a pocket. Now it works. That's just technique and preparation. So that's what you guys are going to do now. Now I need to, now it depends on the rupu, on a nice dark one, a dry one, you don't want to use a fresh one. Any herbivorous dung will work. What I'm trying to get is, I'm trying to get the smallest focal point, and I'm after a small dot. I don't want any light to the side, I want a small dot, as small as I can, like that. And there's a place where you just get the right angle, and you have to manipulate it. I do it here. I'm not going to burn my hand if I get it right. You just move if you burn your hand. And once I'm there, I'm just going to rotate that around. This is 3 times magnification. You get a bigger one, it's even stronger. Then it gets to a degree where I'm going to blow on it. But I need it now. When I blow, I won't be able to speak to you because I need to blow quite aggressively for this to work. Can you see that? Yeah. It's a red coal. There you go. Sometimes it happens first go, sometimes it doesn't. It's friction fly. Now this tender preparation, even more you've got to go. So I'm just going to, I'd sit and I'd get this really fine, because if you haven't got this fine enough, it's just not going to work. So very quickly I'm going to show you a North American bow jewel method. I just have to make this set, so this isn't set it up, and hopefully this cord, as you can see, it's starting to fray out. I could use a shoelace, make bone cordage, or natural cordage. Now I'm using grass tree here because that's all I've got to use. Technique is very specific, shin against knee. I'm not going for a cold yet, I'm having to make my hole. I'm just seating that and making an indentation. And I'm cutting a notch, and that's where the ember's going to fall. I had to be careful not to use much pressure because I drilled through the bottom. So I could feel that was drilling through, and that's just from experience, because that wood was so soft. See that big hole? That usually doesn't happen. So now I let that grow. Get my tinder bundle. That goes in there. My ember's now in there.
Wow.
Yay.
Flames want to go up, break that in half. on the platform without dropping it on it and snuffing it out, which a lot of people do. You need a little air gap. Just let that catch and collapse on itself, and now I've got a sustainable fire. So this is the friction hand drill. This was used colony by Australia, or still used by Australian Aborigines, Kalahari Bushmen, right around the world in hot climates. Bow drill's a North American technique. I stick that down, I'm ready to make fire now. And I've got to increase the speed as I go down. I warm up the set. Increasing downward pressure. Speeding up. Really quick changeover. See the smoke? I've got an ember. And you'd let that grow, get bigger, exactly the same process as before. But I'm dealing with a much smaller ember. Whack that in there. There we go. So there's a look at several different ways of fire. So turbidities, particulate matter, etc. The next major one is parasites. This is from large to small. These are microscopic organisms. Parasites are multi-cell or singular-celled organisms. And parasites include the protozoa. You know, we've got things and cysts, which are the hard shells that a lot of parasites can live in outside the host. And the nasties with parasites are Cryptosporidium and Giardia. The best method of making water safe to drink is first filtering. Coarse filtering to get rid of the particulate matter. Boiling gets rid of 99% of waterborne pathogens. So first things first, give it a good wash, give it a good soaking. Now what we do, you fill it up to the top and we wait for it to get down to that level, because we need to wait for the water to drip past the outside, because the water that's dripping on the outside hasn't been through the bag. Now that's a pretty good drip rate. Done.
Oh, look at that shit.
Sorry, yeah, look at the difference. So there's a difference just between a bandana. Okay, so set your cells ready to go. So guys, you need your fire on the other side somehow. Oh, really? Rolling ball. Have a look at that. Or the other way is you want a green thick ratchet so it's going to break. That's why you want a bigger one. And I can also pour water like that. Okay, so it's cracked but it's green, it won't work with the dead one. You get it as taut as possible and as neat as possible. The neater it is, it'll work better. Fire there, and that's going to be a pocket. Make sense? Yeah.
Oh,
that's not bad. Oh, we forgot to do, hold on, we forgot to do the sensor saggy bit.
So, so damn. This one looks good.
So how do we want to divvy half and half to each one?
Oh, have you? Oh, good.
So what I'm after, this is the transpiration method. So what I'm looking for is a non-toxic tree, and in Australia all gums, so eucalypts, and all wattles or acacias are all good to do this, are all safe. The water we get from this you can drink straight up. Other non-toxic trees, you have broadleaf jabungs, they're okay. These are okay, Banksias. but I need something that's bushy. So if it doesn't have a lot of surface area, it's not going to work too well. But ideally I want something that's not going to puncture the bag, because this needs to have sun throughout the whole day to work. And you could do 4 different trees and get 4 different yields, depending on, you could have the best tree but not the best aspect, or the best aspect but not the best tree. So what I'm looking for is a branch or tree. Now the other thing too is if you get a sapling, a small sapling, you'll get a lot of water power, but sometimes if you can draw from a big tree, you're getting the drawing capacity of that massive tree. And you've got to be careful when you put this, you don't want to break the branch. And I'm trying to create an airtight seal. So how this is working, all of our trees transpire, and what they're doing, the trees are sucking up water from the ground, and that's going into the leaves and that's being dispersed into the atmosphere. And what we're doing is we're capturing that dispersal, and we're making it condense on the inside of the bag. That's the point, to be honest with you. So what's going to happen here, we're only getting the moisture that's in the leaves to evaporate, because there's no drawing capacity because we just cut the branch off. You could hang that up, put it on the ground, probably easy as long as no one punctures it. That's working already. There's a little bit of navigation, but we're going to let the sun do the work. So what I've done, I've got myself a straight stick.
My bad.
Try and get the ground flat. Mark the end of that shadow with the small stick. And all I do is wait a minimum of 20 minutes and come back, and I'm going to mark where that shadow moves to with another stick. And that's going to give us an east-west line. This is longer than 20 minutes. I come along, minimum of 20 minutes, and I mark this shadow. Left foot on west, right foot on east. Therefore, that's north. And let's have a look why. There are exceptions to these rules. They say the 9 poison indicators. 1 is furry stems. 2, this is no order, I'm just off the top of my head. Milky sap. So you stay away from everything with milky sap. However, you can eat figs. So that's an exception to the rule, but generally poison sap's naughty. Red seeds. Plants with red seeds, apple seeds are very poison. Gidgy, they'll kill you. Trumpet-shaped flowers, but generally it's a poison indicator. Mildly toxic. Now these are different various degrees of toxicity. Minor toxic, so that's another general poison indicator. Palmate leaves. I know it's not as good as showing you. I'll try and show an example. Palmate leaves is a leaf that's sort of shaped like that. Sort of like the palm of your hand, that sort of lobed shaped leaf. Prickly stems. Prickly fruit. What's the prickly fruit at the supermarket?
Dragon fruit?
Dragon fruit, things like that. There are exceptions to all of these. But in nature in Australia, generally speaking, prickly fruit, unless you know it's fine, these are what you avoid. Probably the big one, and probably a more general one, which is a really good one, which is common, is opposite leaves. Opposite leaves means there's a stem, they grow opposite like that. So the stem, the leaves grow opposite. Say if that's a leaf, they're opposite each other. Does that make sense? Ones that are generally not poison are alternate leaves. So you've got a leaf there, a leaf there, a leaf there. Does that make sense? Yeah. Opposite, alternate. And that holds true a lot of the time. If you're in doubt, and there's some of these poison indicators, you've got combinations. But that's a big one. There are exceptions to that, but generally opposite leaves. Oh, yep, fungi. Now, that's a bone of contention, that one.
Yeah.
Basically speaking, yes, fungi are edible. and there are ways of finding out which one. But the medicinal value of, the nutritional value of fungi is not a lot. It's more taste. And you have to know your fungi, because if you get it wrong, you're dead. Oh, yeah, that's right, pea pods. That's what it was. Pea pods, pea like in other words, legumes. Yes, there are edible ones, and like fungi, there are poisonous ones. If in doubt, leave out. And for example, lots of wattle seeds are edible. Acacia sophomore, the coastal wattle, is beautiful, but it can be irritating. A lot of them, you have to heat them first to cook them to open to get the seeds out, and they have irritating hairs and things, and you need to heat them to get rid of those. So lots of food needs cooking first. Potatoes are poisonous until you cook them. Cooking makes things edible. Yeah, poison, they're toxic, lots of tubers. Taro is poisonous, which is a staple food in a lot of Polynesian culture, but if you don't cook it, it's poisonous. There's lots of yams up north, cheeky yams, where you need to cook, scrape it, and then leach it in water to get rid of the toxins. Will you hold that end up? The transpiration bag that we couldn't find an extra tree, so we've taken the branches off this. This is our G-bung, our broadleaf G-bung. We've probably got about 200 mil in there. The other one out the front we've seen actually has, I don't know, it's probably a good 350 mil.
Dead spider and stuff.
Yeah, a bit of fibre.
It stings.
All right, so we're going to get your cup ready there, right underneath. There you go.
Oh, now I got to pee.
And all these species are good to drink. All wattle trees and all gum trees, eucalypts, are good in Australia, and this is a Jibung, he's fine as well. So have a sip.
Tastes a bit.
Green, chlorophyll.
Yeah.
He's not vomiting
It
uncontrollably.
just tastes like it's just green. Everyone want to have a sip?
It's green.
Tastes
Yeah.
green.
It's just like chlorophyll from plants. Your aircraft is crashed. There's no one injured. Using what you have learnt, carrying out the priorities of survival, you are to erect a shelter in this area and shadow stick shelter, and then once I call time, we'll come together as a group and you'll carry out your signalling exercise.
Here's a little emergency shoulder we're just doing for this activity. Just had to construct a shoulder and then also get the water boiling and also do a little sundial all within 15 minutes. So
Rightio.
I think we're all good.
Exxon, I'll be there in a sec. That's fine, your shadow stick. What I want you to do is I want you to keep doing. Where's our signal mirror people? Start practicing.
Oh yeah, peace out.
Oh no!
But that's great. I hope you've all learnt a lot from this and have gotten something from it. Just the first step. There's still lots of learning to be had. So please remember what you learn, and what you don't use, you will lose. If you don't practice some of these skills, you'll lose them. Good job, matey. Here's a shake. Good stuff. Natalie. Good job, mate. Good one.
And thanks to Gordon.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.